Shabbat Shalom, everyone. This week, we read from one of the most dramatic literary portions of the entire Torah, Balak. The Parsha is about fear, it's about power, it's about otherness, and surprisingly, it's about blessing. King Balak of Moab looks out and sees the Israelites at his border, and they're not invading, they're not threatening war, and yet their very presence terrifies him. We might pause right there. What do we do when we're afraid? Not of someone's actions, not of what they're doing, but their identity. Not their violence, but their narrative. Balak doesn't gather an army. Instead, he commissions the prophet for hire Bilam to come and curse the Israelites. He wants to erase them spiritually and undermine them from the heavens. Bilam, an enigmatic figure, is brought in, and we expect curses. But what we get time and again instead are blessings. Until famously he said what we read today, Matovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael, how good are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. And these are the very words that we recite each morning when we enter into the synagogue. These are words from a foreign prophet whose mission was to curse Israel. And now it's part of our liturgy. How? Because even Bilam, even someone with suspect motives, an outsider, an arrogant man, was able to see something true. The Talmud notes this in Sanhedrin. In referring to Bilam, it says, his eye was haughty, referring to his arrogance. But even so, he saw with clarity when God allowed it. Sometimes truth comes from surprising places. Which brings me to something that happened this last week. Something extraordinary, something controversial. A group of Arab sheikhs, sheikhs from the city of Hebron visited the Knesset. Hebron, as we know, is one of the most symbolically charged cities in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It's a city of deep holiness, but also deep tension. And yet these sheikhs came to Jerusalem not to protest, not to accuse, but to speak words of peace, to express interest in cooperation, to bless, not to curse. At first glance, it seems like a modern Bilam moment, blessing from an unlikely source. But of course, the story is more complicated than that. Very quickly, Palestinian officials and local figures denounced the visit. Accusations flew that these sheikhs don't truly represent the people of Hebron. Some reports suggest that they are fringe figures. Others say they're motivated by private interests, not communal ones. And so the hopefulness of the moment collided quite strongly with the reality of politics. And that's where we as Jews need to do something very Jewish. Hold complexity. So let's ask the question. If these sheikhs don't represent the majority, does their visit matter? I think it does. Because like Bilam, they're not speaking for the crowd, Bilam didn't have a constituency. He wasn't voicing a movement. He was one person with one voice, seeing something differently. And the Torah includes his words not because they changed Moab's politics, but because they broke a narrative. Bilam was supposed to see Israel as dangerous. Instead, he saw their beauty. He saw something that wasn't obvious to the other people who lived with him. He said, "There is no divination in Jacob, no sorcery in Israel," from the Parsha, meaning their power is not magical or threatening. It's rooted in something authentic. This last week, the sheikhs saw something in Israel. Not the military might, not fear, but possibility. And they chose to save so, even if it cost them. And that act, like Bilam, is deserving attention. Our traditional values and the capacity to learn from all people are expressed in Pirkei Avot. Ezehu chacham, who is wise, halomed mikol adam, one who learns from everybody. Not just people like you, not just from those on your side, every person. And this is echoed in Musar literature. The truly pious person seeks help and shows compassion to all creatures. Why? Because the pious person understands that good can emerge from many places. Sparks of holiness can exist even in dark corners. And so we must ask, when a voice emerges from Hebron, not to incite, but to imagine peace, should we ignore it? Should we dismiss it? I believe we must receive it, not blindly, not naively, but respectfully and hopefully. Now, I'm not suggesting that this event marks a political turning point. These men will not likely shift anything on the ground. They may not be backed by large communities. But the Torah doesn't only care about outcomes, it cares about moments. Megillah 14a in the Talmud asks, what merit did Esther have to become queen? It says, she spoke words of insight before royalty. Sometimes it's one voice, one moment of truth spoken in a room of power that can shift history. Maybe this week's visit won't change the world, but it reminded us that some Arab leaders, even if a few, might be willing to engage. And it reminded us of our duty not to give up on peace. From Parashat Balak, therefore, and this visit of the sheikhs, we learn three essential things. One, opposition can shift. Bilam began as a curse maker, but ended as a praise singer. Minority voices matter. Not every messenger represents the masses, but some speak truth anyway. And three, often our job is to listen, even when it's easier to dismiss, even when the political utility may be unclear. Let's be wise enough to discern symbols from strategy, but also bold enough to nourish hope wherever it may flicker. As Rav Kook taught, the truly righteous see light within everything. May we strive to be among them. Shabbat Shalom.